We are rolling. I'd see AJ's smile. That makes me crack up every time. Welcome, everybody, back to the Behind the Gate podcast. Today, we are joined by Cade Clason, one of the highlighted privateers of this season, off to a pretty fantastic start, I must say. Not sure how it's lived up to your expectations, but you're doing pretty well. You're hauling ass out there.
You're doing better than last year.
That was definitely the goal. I definitely didn't want to be worse than last year. That would have been a bigger letdown than last year. But no, I think this year's going pretty well for me. I'm kind of right where I expected to be, right on that bubble range. And I kind of let one go this weekend, but that's, part of the game.
I didn't see it until like an hour ago. I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was a bummer. It was a bummer.
Yeah. Can we talk about it right away, or do we save it?
No, I think we should. I don't think that he's going to be the only disappointed guy out there this past weekend. So there's a lot to go into. I don't know what you guys thought about structure or anything. This is AJ, you and I. This is the first time that we've gotten together to debrief about the first 3 rounds.
Yeah,
at least on camera. So do we want to start with just kind of how you guys? And maybe we'll start with Cade, how you came into the season, what your expectations were, and how the season has gone so far. And has it met your expectations? Are you more overwhelmed? Are you right where you think you should be? Why don't we start there?
You want to start with me, or you want to start with Kat?
Yeah. Hey, screw him.
Okay.
He gets enough TV time.
Okay. I mean, the first round kind of went like expected. We all know it's super stacked, and we kind of want to just get through the first round and make sure everything works. I kind of was really bummed on my 2 LCQs the first 2 rounds. First turn crash and a second turn crash is not really how you want to start the most important races of the day for yourself. So that kind of sucks for me, but my qualifying times have been really good. Normally I'm really bad at that. So we spent a lot of time kind of trying to work on my qualifying speed to make it a little bit better. And I still think there's room for improvement. And then just carrying that over into the LCQs, which I think a lot of people got to see this Saturday, was my raw speed is there. I mean, I held Tickle off for like 3 laps, it's a big deal for me. It ticks fast. And, I kind of got tight and then made some mistakes, and it happens. So I'm just trying not to dwell on it and make the best of what I have, because I know I'm fast enough to be up there with those guys. So I'm happy with where I'm at. I just wish the results kind of showed it.
Yeah, who cares about results?
Yeah,
nobody.
Easy for you to say. I will say, Cade, I mean, you seem to have found a little bit more speed. You're one of the guys. Full disclosure, we're honest, we're transparent. You're one of those guys where when you're in front of AJ, I'm like, come on, you're faster than Cade. You're faster than Cade. Not so much anymore. And I don't think it's a function of AJ losing speed. I think it's you look really good on the bike. What have you attributed that to?
I've just been kind of working pretty hard. I hate to say it, but I took that pulp money that I won last year, and I've kind of just invested it back into myself for this year, because I was so bummed with how last year went. I knew I was better than what I was showing, and coming back here to club isn't cheap, especially when you just bought a house in Arizona. So going across the country, being away from your wife is not super easy, but I've just been working really hard. I've put a lot of laps in. Our new setup is really good. The team's working really hard. I really like my race bike, and honestly, I'm kind of just carefree at the moment. Last year, I think I rode super scared and timid, and I got hurt at the 3rd round, I think, last year. So that really didn't help too. And then I rode, the next 7 rounds with a broken thumb. And I know it don't seem like much, but it was not enjoyable. So I think I'm really I found some comfort with my bike, and, speed kind of comes with comfort.
How important
him
do you
and
think
I
it
seem
is?
sorry,
Go ahead,
Bruce.
AJ.
Him and I seem in the same spot in a lot of aspects, as far as like we're really, really, really happy with our bike setups this year. And we both kind of like have for whatever reason, but he's more prepared, so it's easier to have the confidence. Oh, see you, Cade. I'm a little bit more confident this season as well. It just seems like we're both kind of getting back to our 2017 or 2018 was it selves? What was the year that like you put me in the scaffolding?
That was
17?
17.
But
So
like
like
16 was probably my best year.
okay, so like
17, I made
16,
the same amount of
17.
mains. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you're getting closer to like where you were then, and I'm sort of inching my way back to that slowly. I'll get there eventually. Maybe by
I'm really glad
2024.
Yeah, maybe by 21. Sure. Yeah. So,
I'm really
Cade,
glad you brought that up because I mean it's gonna be a week long thing because we're going to Indy for a week, and it's just gonna be
Oh,
me dishing it out to you. Do you remember when I put you in the scaffolding here? Yeah.
I forgot. And how appropriate too that you just got taken out in the last turn in the LCQ. I mean, his
Exactly.
pass was pretty good. It was everything he had to do in the last turn. And then your counter to it was smart and you had the right idea, but you missed it by like a knobby.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
knobby.
Oh, you mean this weekend? Yeah, cutting
Yeah.
back down. Yeah, I was so close. Man, I was like, because I pinned it because I knew he was going to get on the gas. So like, I thought I had enough space, and it just like as soon as I clipped his wheel, it just sucked my front end up into the air, and that's what made me fall.
Now,
You know,
what was
his
your strategy
his
before that? Like, let's say like on the on-offs going into the left-hander before the Supercross triple, like what was your game plan?
Okay, so here's how my last lap went.
Okay.
So those two dudes both picked up the pace after Brock got by me. And I like looked at the lap times. I went like 0.3 of a second slower after Brock passed me. And they started to catch me because they actually started going a half a second to a second faster than they had before. So I think Carlin and A-Ray were pushing Austin to catch me. So then they started getting closer to me. And after the whoops on the last lap, I hit neutral and like tucked the front and almost fell, and then got passed by Austin going up to the wall.
Wait, this was on the last lap?
Yeah. Because I was
So
in
what
third.
place were you in at the beginning of this thing?
I started third, went to second, ran second for 3 or 4 laps, and then Brock passed me, and then third. Yeah, it was a whole. So, and then I was trying to pass Austin back because I knew Carlin was behind me, so I went inside to go double and kind of like air wheelied it because I ran it so tight. And I like landed in the pocket weird, and I was gonna 3, but I was like cutting across the ruts, and I thought I was gonna crash. So I checked up, cased the triple, bounced through the rhythm section to then have Carlin on my rear wheel, and he followed me all the way till after the triple. And I thought about it when I was off in the triple. I was like, where am I gonna go? Because I didn't really see a good solution.
Right.
So I was like, I'm gonna pin it down. I'm gonna pin it down the middle of the sand and then hit the inside around the tough blocks. Because if I went down the left side of the sand to protect the inside, the sand's deep as shit over there because nobody's ridden over there. Plus, if I go inside, he's just going to rip the berm and go around me. So I was like, I had to kind of leave the door open to try to carry enough speed so he couldn't, go around me, because going into the inside before that finish line was going to be so slow. And basically, he just pinned it through the sand until he smashed into me to use me as kind of a brake. And like I've ran it through so many simulations, and it's like, if I would have went to the berm, he would have slammed me. If I would have went even tighter, he would have went around me and either cut under me when I got to the tough blocks, or he would have just ripped around me. So it's like, I don't really know a perfect solution to what I could have done.
It's so hard to make that decision in the moment. Like now, because you see how Webb did it against Roxon, but he might have had a few more bike lengths than you had. And you never really know. Like landing that triple, you're assuming that the guy's right on your butt. So you're like, okay, I'm planning basically a defense maneuver on like a takeout, right? That's what you were probably doing. And I've had to do that many times too. And it's always like, what the heck do I do? Do I just like roll around the inside and wait till he goes to the outside and then I take him out? Or like, what? I don't know. I never know what the best option is.
Yeah.
I think you did it pretty much right. I mean, maybe if you went a little tighter and a little slower and forced
because it's
his
literally
hand.
do or die. I was just scared because, like, you know how it is going through that sand. If you go too slow, you can't really pick up speed. Like if I went slower into the corner, he would have just carried speed and gone around me. Or like if I still wasn't tight enough, he would have just went right up the inside. If it would have been anything other than sand going into it, there probably would have been some more options. But with all the sand, it kind of limits what you can do because you can't really move around. It's like once you're in there, you're kind of just stuck with where you're going.
How was that sand section compared? I mean, it's obviously a lot longer, but you don't really see on TV unless you're riding in it how deep it is, how it's actually riding, during a race. How was this past round sand section for you guys?
Go ahead, Cade.
I crashed in it twice. So
yeah, right in front of me.
three times if you want to include the last turn one. So I like it. I like sand. I think it's like a cool little different aspect, but at the same time, it's so frustrating because it's so hard to ride with soupy stuff.
I've liked the last couple because they've been in 90-degree turns and you can carry momentum, especially this one. I don't like the ones where it's like you have zero momentum and you're in the sand. That's even worse. Although what was scary about this one is you're landing the Supercross triple and I was clicking to third in the Supercross triple, and then you're going into like the sand blind, basically going third gear really fast. And with the sand being bottomless like that, you don't know what it's going to be like. One lap you come around and it's perfect and you have a berm. Next lap you come around and somebody's blown that berm out and you have nothing. And not to mention it was at the end of the lap.
It's like, crazy how deep it really is.
Oh yeah, it just keeps going.
Yeah, that is just something you cannot perceive on TV or even in the stands. Without being in it, there's no way to really conceptualize that. But go ahead.
Oh, and like as they prep it, it just keeps getting fluffier. So like they push it right back on. It's not like a normal sand track where like you get to like a harder base, right? They just keep prepping it and keep making it like super fluffy. And when it's really fluffy like that, you have almost no control unless you're going wide open and just kind of like floating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your only hope is to stay on the gas.
Yeah.
And like kind of steer yourself a certain direction. But Bryce, let's talk about like, because I want to hear Cade's side of it too, like lead up to the race, not necessarily training, but expectations on how the Feld was going to handle COVID precautions and like the steps that you had to go through. I think round one was kind of a mess a little bit with that, but then the other ones weren't bad. Now I'm really curious to see what happens for Indy. So we both had to be tested twice, right? You got tested right before round one and then right before round three.
So I tested Friday when I got there. So I was like one of the last ones there. I got there midday on Friday, tested, and then I actually tested again on Wednesday. Or no, Monday. I tested again on Monday.
You tested before
to
even
get it
round
over
two?
with. Yeah, because it just has to be a week ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? Like once you take a test, it's good for a week. Like you could do it on Sunday. I think that's what some of the mechanics did. They went and tested on Sunday after the first round, and then they're good through the rest of them. And I think the reason they do that is to have better odds of passing, right? If you take one on Friday and pass, you're probably going to have better odds of passing another one on Sunday than you would if you wait a full week. You know what I'm saying?
Especially going.
Saved by the bell.
I saw him like
when you
sit
go
up in the
karting
background.
Maybe his mom's home. But yeah, like we were going go-karting, we're going to restaurants, like we're kind of like we're susceptible. So that's good. That's a good outlook on it.
Well, that was the thing I was kind of teasing you guys about is and maybe I'll ask you, do you think that the protocols in place are there and set up well to protect everybody, or do you think it's really just to check the box? Because it's one thing to get tested and then be in a bubble, but like I was teasing you guys, you get tested and you're out at a public place, you're in a restaurant, you're with a bunch of people, you could pick it up. Not to say you would, but you could.
I don't think it's like the Fight Island where those guys are literally in a hotel room by themselves, so they can't possibly get it. I don't know. They're kind of doing what they can, because what other options do they have? Are they going to pay for us all to be in quarantine, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. They're making it work. And everybody gets to enjoy racing, which is awesome. I'm curious to see how like it's different in different states though.
I know.
Texas is pretty lenient, and I'm wondering how it transitions to other states.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a problem they were running into was I think probably most of the privateers weren't taking some of the stuff serious, and it was like making the stadium mad. Like I don't know if AJ actually watched the riders meetings, but I did, and like at each one, Pelletier and Mui were being super serious. Like, guys, you have to wear your masks in your pit because the stadium was like getting on them and threatening to cancel the last round because they're under obligations from the city, and I get it. Like they want to have these races. They need the races to happen for them to make money. We need the races to happen for us to make money. And I think our sport is definitely, more on the side of like probably people who don't want to wear masks. And you know what? That's people's perspective. That's fine. But to make these races happen, we kind of have to follow their guidelines. And going back to what AJ said, the first round, I got there and it was super simple. I drove through the line, took my test, got my stuff, went to my pit. Like it was pretty normal. You know what I mean? It was actually really more simple than normal, I think, for me, because I got there, I took my test. There was no line at will call. I walked up, got my credential, went over to the pit, did my stuff, and I left. Like it was pretty simple, honestly, for me. And then like if you just did stuff the way that they kind of wanted you to, it was actually relatively easy. Some of the things I think were really annoying, like, they were trying to force us to go through one gate the whole time, but then to like avoid contact with like the fans. But then as soon as you're in the stadium, you're sitting right next to the fans. So it's like, sometimes it's just like making, more work out of nothing, really, because there's certain things you're not going to be able to avoid unless they rope off sections for people from the pits to be able to go in and watch. But that doesn't really make sense either. So
yeah, or our mechanics can't ride on the back of our bikes, but yet we're in our bubble in the pit area where we're all next to each other.
They're not letting the mechanics ride on the back of the bikes.
So apparently that was a stadium rule and not an AMA rule.
I believe
I got
that.
yelled at because the first weekend we got there, and it's a long walk in Houston, and we didn't have a scooter or anything for my mechanic. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it. Like I made him walk up for like the first practice. I was like, dude, I'm not making you walk. So I took him up all day, just like everybody else did. Like your team, every one of you guys took your mechanics up every time. And then I went up to do like a video game scan before the second round. And one of the dudes stopped me and like started telling me, he's like, man, you can't have your guy on the back of your bike. Like he was super nice about it, but he's like, it's not our rule. It's a stadium rule. And they freaked out on us because nobody did it after the first round. And I kind of explained myself. I'm like, dude, I literally stay in the same hotel room with my mechanic. He's touching my bike. I'm touching my bike. We're touching the same tools. Like there are guys, like, why does it matter? And he's like, it's a perspective thing to the fans that they're just trying to encourage social distancing in the stadiums, which I get. I mean, it's super frustrating, but it is what it is, So then we ended up just getting a scooter, and he just rode the scooter the whole time. And, I agree. I think it's the stupidest rule in the world, but I mean, like in Indy, it won't even matter because it's like half of us are going to pit inside and half of us are going to pit outside. And it's like a 2-minute walk anyways. So I think it was just annoying in Houston because it was a 15-minute walk.
Right. Yeah. And really the biggest confusion for me was getting my videographer Cam kind of where he needed to be and figuring out what the deal was with him. Like, luckily he filled out his stuff ahead of time and he got his band. Like I still have this stupid thing on. So this is what we would get. It's like this one says round 3. This was the confusion. So this acted as our credential. We didn't even need our credentials. I didn't need my credential for anything. This is what acted as your credential. So Cam got
no
one
lanyard,
of these.
no lanyard and card, you're saying?
No.
Yeah.
Well, we have it.
One.
You have
but we don't need it.
You didn't need it. Yeah.
The only thing you need it for is to get that.
But which was odd.
But you don't like. I didn't bring it a single time. I forgot it each time, and I was like, "Here's my
Right.
ID," and she just looked my name up.
Same. So once you have this is where the things got a little confusing. This only got you into the pits. It didn't get you into the stadium. Into the stadium, you had to have a ticket, which Ticketmaster would text the riders 2 tickets each, apparently. That's at least what I got. So you would have to theoretically use one of those tickets for yourself as a rider to get into the stadium. It was like a little barcode, or one of your crew members or friends or whatever could use that ticket to get into the stadium as well. So I was just trying to like give Cam all of those things, so when he got to the stadium, like he would just show all of them and hope that one of them would work. But that was definitely like a little confusing. I think round 2 or Indy will probably be a little less confusing as far as that, but who knows? It might be even worse. Because I think we all got into the flow of like how Houston worked. But
I'm nervous that Indy's going to be like the worst one for that stuff, because I mean, it's the only northern one we go to. You know, it's I believe a very democratic city, and I'm worried because like Texas, I'm not trying to be political here, but like Texas and Florida,
it's part of the reality.
Yeah. So like Texas and Florida are both very Republican and have a very different outlook on situations. So I hope that like we don't ruin it for ourselves by not following rules, and then they end up canceling the race.
But everything's still on as far as we know.
Yeah. No,
because
it is for sure. I'm just saying,
where it all
like,
fell apart last year. So as
yeah,
long
that's
as
what I'm
we
saying. Like we go there and don't follow rules, we're just going to screw ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of bite the bullet and do what they say and carry on.
And I think everyone was really doing a good job of it. Like there was times where I'd forget, but I started to get more in the habit of it, because like Mike Mewey from Feld sent me an email after the first round. He's like, listen, AJ, you got to make sure you start wearing your mask, or, you know, if you continue to not wear your mask, we'll have to reconsider your racing efforts for the season or whatever. So I was like, ooh, okay. And I sent an email back. I was just like, Mike, I apologize. I won't let it happen again. I was I said, I need to create a habit of doing it in my everyday life. I don't wear one, because where do I go? I mean, I go to the gym, which oddly enough, you don't have to wear one. And then I go to my track so unless I go to the grocery store, which I don't often, or at the airport. So like I didn't have that habit formed yet, but even after the first 3 rounds, like I made sure that I always had the mask on, and at the very least it was pulled down to here, so I would remember to just put it on my face when I needed it.
Yeah.
And then every time we had the camera on after that email, Cameron, my film guy, was just like, mask up, mask up. And he's like, if you don't have your mask up, put it down and talk, but at least have an open bottle of water in your hand that's visible for the camera.
There you go.
So like I would just unscrew the bottle of water and just hold it like this as I talked.
Hey, let's get back to dirt bikes.
So like, okay.
We could talk about COVID all day, but I want to talk about dirt bikes because a lot has happened the last few rounds. And it was funny because one of my buddies who's a fan, but he doesn't know that much about the sport, I think on Thursday or Friday, he texted me out of the complete clear blue. He's like, why don't they ever turn to the right off the start? And I had the discussion with him, having no clue that it was going to be a right-hand start on Saturday. I was like, oh, explain to him why they typically don't and why it's more difficult. How did you guys like the right-hand start? Because it seems like some guys can negotiate it really well, and some guys have a real hard time with the timing and everything. So, AJ, start with you. How did you like the right-hand start?
I don't notice a difference personally, but I think that's because I also ride.
We don't go fast enough. That's okay. Cade,
that's a big point. That's a big point. One, I don't go fast enough. Two, I think I just have right technique, and I get off the rear brake when I'm supposed to get off the right technique, or off the rear brake. Go ahead, Cade. What do you think?
So I think right-handed first turns are only bad when it's a 90, because a 90-degree turn is usually a lot faster, right? So we think we can get away with a lot more, where like this weekend, it was kind of like we had to go across a lane to then get into, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we had to go. So it was a big first turn that leaves a lot of room for error. And it was a shorter start straight. if you go back to round 2, that left-handed turn, there was a pileup, I think, in every race except one. Somebody went down in the first turn. It's a left, but then this weekend, I think the starts were pretty
clean.
good.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of depends on how the start straight works and how it funnels together. But I think if you're going to go right-handed, it's got to be like a big open 180, because if you go 90, everyone gets pushed because they're coming in fast and they can't use their brake. So that's my opinion. I don't mind the right-handed first turn. My starts this weekend were this is the only time they were good. So
talking about track layout, obviously you guys were in the same stadium for 3 rounds. Did the tracks all have a distinct feel to them, or did you know, I mean, outside of the dirt, like layout, feeling of the flow of the track, did you guys know you were on a different setup, or did it kind of just seem like you were riding the same track?
It felt different to me. I mean, round 1 and 1-2 felt similar-ish because it was all 180s, right? Which is what we want. We want 180s usually. But to have that many 180s, it's got to be a little bit bigger of a floor. The last round, it was a really cool track, totally different. And, they threw those 90s in there to add like some short lanes to kind of slow it down. They had 3 short lanes and then like four long lanes, where before it was just like 5 or 6 long lanes. And the first 2 rounds were way too short. Low 40s isn't really acceptable to a Supercross track. But the dirt was so good in Houston. It was probably one of my new favorite dirts that I've raced on. The first round, it was a little soft, but like nothing compared to like a soft Indy. So it was like there was tons of traction all 3 nights. I really liked. I think all 3 layouts were super fun to ride. The first 2 were just too short. But yeah, I mean, the best part of the whole time there was the dirt.
Had you never been to Houston?
I never raced Houston. 2 or 3 years ago, when they raced there, was my first year suspended. So I went and watched, but I didn't race.
Because Houston and St. Louis, for me, have always been the 2 best dirt. Something about it. It's like going to Germany, except it's not quite as riding like glue, but there's just so much traction. It's insane. I personally, I didn't like the third layout as much. I think I struggled with that on-off section too badly.
That section was hard. I found that because you had to work so hard to get over the last one, that it's like you tensed up and then got tight.
Exactly. Technically, I could do it, and I'm good at that type of stuff. But physically, how much effort it took to bunny hop your bike over that 5-footer on the last tabletop. Every time I left that section, I had such bad arm pump, and I was like exhausted.
Yeah,
it was
and
terrible.
That's like the first hard obstacle that we've had all year. Every obstacle we've had has been so simple. No rhythms have been hard. No, like the whoops haven't been difficult. This weekend we had a long set of whoops, and that on off was really difficult. So I think that is why a lot of us, I struggled hard in practice, like really bad. I was really nervous to go racing because I couldn't string laps together.
Because of which section specifically? Those 2?
Yeah, I would screw up the whoops, or I'd screw up the on, or I'd screw up the sand. And, in my heat race, I intentionally went easy. I was doing 53s in the heat race just so that I could get comfy stringing laps together. And then in the LCQ, I went down to 51s. It's a big difference.
Yeah, a couple of seconds is huge.
My anxiety comes too when I can't, even if it's just one section. So I felt really, really comfortable on the entire track other than the on-off section. But the on-off section was enough to mentally screw me up for the whole night because I didn't have a game plan. Every time I went in there, I did something different. Tomac had the same issue in the main. Like one lap he'd go inside, one lap he'd try the outside, and then he'd skim his way across it by accident. Like he never really had any consistent way of getting through there. And I felt the same way. Like I just didn't know what to do. I resorted to just going outside single over table, table over single, because energy wise, it was the only thing I could manage. But even that was hard to get consistent because I was tripling the end of the rhythm going into it, which that was hard to time. And then there was a big rut. I don't know. Just that one section really got in my head.
Yeah, see, I was gonna ask why you didn't resort to that, and then you said you did, but like I mentally just committed to going on, off, because like first practice, I was like, I know that's gonna be the line, right? And you look at it and it's like that's what makes sense. So I think first lap I just did it and cased the off. And then I think one time all day I went over table single. So like I knew how to do it, but I was like I have to just get comfy doing this other line because it's going to be a lot faster. And I literally spent all day trying to figure it out.
It's hard.
I think, and maybe you guys would agree, the 250s would have even harder time with all of this, and it might have manifested. I don't want to jump the gun too much, but what for the 250 main, the leaders lapped through 7th place, and they almost caught 6th. So you have 5 guys lapping the field. Do you think that played a role? Is the guys with less experience, less powerful bikes stringing laps together? Because like I don't know if there's that big of a disparity between 12th and 6th, but
I think there is now. Right now there is.
do you?
Yeah, in a nice way. Like, yeah, the 250 class is light.
Yeah. Well, it's like I I kind of got into it with one of my buddies. He came over and was giving me crap for my LCQ, and I was like, bro, look at it this way. I qualified 28th, and we ran the same times, and you qualified 9th, and he's in the lights class, obviously.
On a way
And
easier track, a way easier track.
yeah,
We're riding a track
like,
that's literally by the time B group 450 gets out there, it's 5 times as bad as what the 250 guys are seeing.
And like I'm not trying to boost myself because our class is just stacked with not only factory dudes but really good privateers. Like I think a lot of 250 teams just weren't ready to go racing because it takes so much more effort for a 250 program to be ready to go. And you know, there's the factory dudes and some of the privateers who had their shit together. And you know, more power to them. Like, you know, guys like Carnow and you know Osby and John Short are just taking advantage of it. You know, Osby's gone like 997 or something, and
Dang.
Carnow got a 12th. Like, those are really good results for. I mean, they're good riders. I'm not trying to say they're not, but they're not guys who are going to contest for top 5s and podiums, I don't think. But
And now, AJ, I know we've kind of joked about this. Would you consider going and ride some 250 races, West Coast?
Yeah, Jason and I talked about it again this weekend, but we can't. It just wouldn't be realistic. It'd be too much time, money, and effort to go get a 250 right now, last minute. And we had talked about it preseason, but with the way the schedule is so up in the air, we thought that it was going to look more like hopping from one bike to the other, back to the other, back to the other. And I didn't want to get involved in that because in Supercross, jumping from a 250 to a 450 is really difficult to do, just timing wise. Next year, I want to because I really think like with my lack of seat time, the ability is still there, but when the track is that gnarly, it becomes more physical, and not to mention it's like scarier and it's even more difficult. I can't do it as well. If you put me on a fresh Supercross track, I could go probably a year without touching a dirt bike and get on it and like remember how to do it and still hit the whoops wicked fast and still be really fast. But the problem is on the 450, you never see the track fresh because it goes, not this exact order, but it goes 250 BCA, 450A, 450B. So the last group to hit that track every time is Cade and myself. And all it takes, even if it's not that bad, leaving 250A, by the time the 450A guys hit it for 10 minutes, 8 minutes, it's completely destroyed. And that alone, you know, forget the competition, that like riding the track alone is way more difficult in the 450 class.
plus, just riding a 450 on a Supercross track, a kid at club had a 250 and a 450, and he was a 250 guy getting ready for Supercross, and his bike broke, and he hopped on the 450. And he's like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, riding a 450 on a Supercross track for the first time. He's like, I don't know how you guys do this. It's hard because there's so much power, and you have to be so precise. Where on a 250F, you just hit stuff wide open basically all the time.
Yep. Yeah, it's tempting. I mean, watching the 250 class, it's tempting to want to drop down. Again, nothing against those guys, but it would be a nice confidence booster for me. And that's not to say I'd go out and get a 4th or a 5th, but if I could go down the 250 class and get a top 15, which I think would be really realistic, even me not being in that good a shape. And then like the next round, I could probably be competitive for a top 10 or close to it. That'd be a ginormous confidence booster for me. But I think the difference with this year is that I'm managing expectations a lot better. You know, like this weekend I got 14th in the LCQ and I left happy. 14th in the LCQ is for me not an accomplishment, but that didn't matter. It was about how I progressed throughout the days and the week, and even when things went wrong, how I learned from it. And I'm just mentally, I'm a little bit different than I used to be, where before everything was judged solely on a number.
And Cade, you mentioned the same thing about kind of managing your expectations, and how important has that been? I mean, we've all heard the stats time and time again, how stacked the class is, 7 or 8 250 champions riding the 450 class. First through 18th, 19th is basically factory or really large teams. There's not that much room in a main event for you guys as privateers. Who's Kyle Chisholm is, I think, the only privateer to make all 3 mains. He's been riding really well. But you guys have your work cut out for you. How has managing those expectations for this season kind of affected the way you've approached everything?
It's just trying to keep your ego in check, you know, and not get too down on yourself is kind of the biggest thing. You know, you look at Chiz and A-Ray, and they're both just solid dudes who know how to get it done. Chiz, I feel like a little bit more than Alex, but still, Alex has been out there. He made the first 2, and he missed this one because he got cleaned out in the heat race, and he got a bad start in the LCQ, and that's all it takes. You know, you can be the fastest dude, but you know, say Tick gets a bad start in the LCQ and gets bumped around on the first lap, he might not make it out of the LCQ. Hartraff didn't make it out of the LCQ, and he made the first 2. It can be a nightmare. So it's just about, you know, like AJ said, finding positives throughout the day and getting small wins for yourself. My teammate said it best. He won the 250 LCQ at round 2, and he's like, man, it felt so good to win something. And that's really cool. Because as pros, like AJ, when was the last time you won a race? Like we don't win that much anymore. Like you don't get that opportunity once you turn pro to like build up all these trophies and have this cool, you know, you don't get a trophy room for a guy like us because, you know, yeah, we're pro and we're really good, but we don't win races. We don't get on the podium. It's trying to find small wins within, you know, kind of bad days and stuff like that to kind of keep you going.
And if you're not good at that, you're just constantly leaving the race, getting your confidence beaten down over and over and over and over. But you don't have to look at it that way. You can look at it a different way and have the small wins. Because if you want to like look at it a little bit more literally or take the numbers, like there's only been a few races ever where I would have left and been satisfied and had that confidence.
St. Louis 2014.
It's funny because it got brought up when you were doing the school, I think with me, which we could talk about, and you remembered right away that we didn't even reference it. Somebody said St. Louis 2014. And you're like, you were ripping that night.
I remember it was my rookie year, and AJ was just like, he was wheel tapping this giant 3.5. It was like a 3.83.
Yeah.
Before the triple. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I love that.
And it was like terrifying. And AJ would just like try to jump over the top and then just nick his rear tire on it. And then there was this, you hit the finish line and it was a 180. And like, if you were like, I would go double table single, but the single was a 5-footer. and I think it was Stu would like 3 onto the table and then step off, but like twist his bike in this weird way to get over it on a 450, and nobody else was doing it. And here comes AJ, and then AJ starts doing it, and you qualified like 5th or something, and then did really well in the main. Like, and they had a huge set of whoops directly into a dragon's back, and you'd like jump off the dragon's back and then triple into the turn. And I remember that track. And there was a quad. Like, after
didn't you crash on that dragon's back?
I did. Yep. This is talk about your positives and you bring up one of my negatives. Thanks, man. But no, I remember, like, it's just like those things right there. Like, I remember stuff like that. We were and then after that, we were talking about my first Supercross, and like I was like, yeah, I did really good that day.
26, right?
Like 26th.
Yeah.
And he's like, how did you remember that? Because he looked it up, and like I did that, and I finished. I remember because I finished right behind AJ in the heat, and I was like all stoked about that. I did bad in the LCQ, and AJ made it, you know. And it's like those little things right there. It's like it gets you excited.
That's funny. It's funny how we have photographic memory when it comes to some of that stuff.
When did we go to?
Yeah, right.
When did we stop doing semis? Do you
2
remember?
years ago?
I think
It was 14. It was 14. We were still doing semis, right?
I did them in 16. Was 17 the last year of semis? Or did we not do them in 17?
We definitely did them in 17 because that was the year I took out Tedder at MetLife. So 17 would have been the last year.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember our battle for the entire main event at not MetLife, but where the Patriots play? Gillette Stadium. Do you remember that?
What?
We battled the entire main event.
What year? We've raced there twice, right?
18 for sure.
17.
17 and 18?
16.
Did we go
No,
back to back?
I didn't race in 18.
So it was 16?
It was 16 or 17. 1, 2.
No,
I think it was 16. It was 16. It was 16 because my scooter got stolen. I remember.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I thought we were at MetLife in 16. No, you're right.
And I'm pretty sure I made it out of the semi that night.
Can you describe the track to me?
Start straight, down, left, rhythm, right, whoops.
Big whoops, right?
Yeah, big whoops, round, big round 180, long, maybe a triple, and then more rhythm, 90 right, short little rhythm 180, rhythm
Whoops.
180.
I need to verify
Whoops or
this.
something.
Hold
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Whoops.
And I remember because Schmidt cleaned me out in the 90 before the finish line for like 10th in the heat race.
I don't remember that main event. I remember tipping over in the first turn in the LCQ and I still made it somehow. I came from like dead last and I still made it.
That's impressive.
I remember also battling with Weimer in the semi and I missed it by 1. But I can't remember.
I think I made it out of the semi that night somehow.
Dang.
So
well,
yeah.
Bryce, keep us on the freaking rails here, buddy. We're gonna keep going back further and further into the years.
Okay, so we've talked about some of your guys' philosophies about managing expectations, kind of keeping your focus on the track. Let's segue that into what we saw in the 250 class this weekend, where there was a gentleman, Austin Faulkner, who's really battled with that composure piece, with the expectation, the pressure maybe, and damn it, again, another season. What's an injury update for him? I didn't look. Not looking good.
Broken collarbone?
Was it?
I heard
confirmed?
I heard today that it was a collarbone.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
I don't know.
What do you guys make of that?
I feel bad for him, man, because he's so fast and he has so much talent, but I think he just doesn't have somebody around him to tell him to chill out and, you know, kind of be serious with him and tell him to just, dude, you have an attitude problem and you need to just shut up and go out there and finish on the podium every single weekend and stop trying to win races by a minute, because, you know, he did that the one year when he had the championship wrapped up and he got hurt. So I think he thinks that that's going to be possible every year, and he tries to ride that way with that attitude. And I just feel bad because it doesn't work for him.
Yeah, it's even a bigger bummer for me to see it not even happening during a heat race or main. It's like qualifying, practice. Those are where, I mean, I totally understand. Like, you want to be out front, you want to rip, but you got to balance that with, it means nothing if you don't show up for the main. Like, it means absolutely nothing. So AJ, what do you think, what would be your advice to a 250 rider who, like, even like a Jet Lawrence, somebody who's like obviously ridiculously fast? Jet had a little bit of an issue this past weekend in qualifying. What do you say to him?
There's a fine line between that fight for like supremacy and like that ultimate confidence of qualifying P1 or winning a heat race or winning the main event, and then throwing it all away for nothing. What does it really matter other than for the slight boost in confidence and bragging rights to qualify first as opposed to third or fourth?
So that's what I was going to ask you is, if you were like one of those guys, say you were like, because I feel like I have this issue too. I think we all do. Like, you and I, we both want to finish on the board.
Yeah. That got in my head this weekend. I was riding too hard for no reason, just because I wanted to get on the board. And I'm like, what does it matter if I qualify 7th or 5th in a B? Who cares?
So I've found this with myself, and I'll explain it too. But like, okay, I'll do me first. I qualified 26th at the second round, and I was stoked. You know, my goal was to be top 26, because usually the top 8 in the LCQ are guys who like contend for it, right? So, you know, 26th is top 8. So,
good math.
Yeah. But then, you know, the next round I qualified 28th, and I'm like beating my head against the wall. And I'm like, does one position in the heat race or one different gate pick in the heat race really make that big of a difference? No. You know, like, if I went out and actually got comfortable riding the track, like if I went out and rode at 80% and did 10 laps and actually got comfy versus going out and riding at 130% and only being able to string together 2 laps, which one makes more sense? And I feel like it's got to be a thing with the top guys too. Like, they all want to qualify on the board or top, but, you know, they're going to qualify in the top 6 anyways because they're that fast. Why not go out there and do, you know, maybe a 5-lapper and then pull in and stop, change a couple things, and go out and do like, you know, a 2 or a 3 and get comfortable riding at a pace that you're actually going to race at. Because in reality, your heat race isn't going to be quite as fast as it shouldn't be quite as fast as your 1 lap sprint, because you shouldn't be able to do that every single lap.
Right.
And if you can, then you should be stringing laps together like no other in practice. And if you can find that comfort. Sorry, go ahead.
They're in even a better position to do that than we are, because technically there's times where, not to say we're on the bubble of qualifying, but it's like, it's in the realm of possibility that if we don't get a clean lap and you could not make the top 40. They don't, there's, a guy like Jet Lawrence, Forkner, they don't have that worry, not even close. So that pressure is off. It's basically just an ego thing at that point. And you need to know when to kind of like, just take a chill pill. If there's a section that's higher risk, I was having the same thing in the 3rd-time qualifier or the 2nd-time qualifier this last race. I had so much more in the tank, and I knew it. I knew that I could have been on the board. I knew that I could have been even maybe close to top of the board. But there was a couple sections that were like getting really hairy. And I'm like, is it really worth just sending it through this section just to do that? I'm like, no. So I just backed off and I just started circulating laps. And that ended up being way more beneficial, because you create a game plan, you create a flow, you learn the track and how it flows. as opposed to one lap hanging on for dear life and risking an injury like those guys did. Hampshire crashed in the same section as Forkner, or where?
Yeah, in free practice.
In free practice?
Yeah, I guess we were talking about it today during our workout. I guess he clipped one of the threes because it was a 3-3-3. He clipped one of the threes, but then still tried to do the next one, and just either got suction cupped into the face because they are still soft, or cross-threaded or something, and just like slow endoed and nose picked, and then. But I guess he dislocated one of his wrists and broke the other one.
Yikes.
Yeah, I heard the wrist. Right?
Not good.
Yeah, that sucks bad.
Not good.
AJ, has it been by design the last couple rounds where your fastest lap is your last lap?
In what? The races or time
qualifying?
Oh, really? Is that, I didn't even notice. Is that what's happening?
It seems like I'm watching. This year is good because they're actually putting Group B's times, on the board on Race Day Live. In the past, they hadn't been doing that. So like before, when I was watching like Group B or Group C, I'd have the AMA Supercross app up looking at times and trying to match it up with like what I'm watching.
Oh,
this year,
weird.
it's a lot better. So no, but I'm like waiting. I'm like seeing AJ, he goes out, he gets a couple fast laps and then starts dropping on the board as everybody ticks him off. And it's like getting down to the wire and then, AJ's up the board again. So it does seem as like either your last lap or second to last lap.
Yeah, well, I think I am doing a good job of taking my time to learn the track, and I'm getting better as the season goes on. I mean, I don't know if there was a guy that comes into the season as unprepared as me, unfortunately. So I just have to continue to race my way into shape a little bit and kind of get the speed back and the confidence back. My confidence is way better already, though, than it's been the last couple of years. And I don't know what that's a product of. I think I just made a deal with myself. Like the last couple of years, I didn't jump any of the obstacles. I don't know if I did basically a single one of the triples and the rhythms, anything. And this year I'm like, you cannot ride complacent like that. You have to go out and jump stuff right away. And then that'll set the tone and it will just bump you up to it'll put you back in the mix or near the mix. So
you're definitely qualifying a lot better than you were last year.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's a product of me jumping stuff, basically.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Cade has still got you the last few rounds.
What was it, AJ? Every round.
Every round.
Did you get me? You got me this last one too?
Yeah.
Weren't you second?
Practice. You had me in the first two.
Shoot.
And then I got you in the third one.
Dang. Well, I've been close at least. And we've been in the mix. And if I've been off, it's only been by let's call it a second to 21st or 22nd place, which usually
is reasonable.
Yeah. And for me, it's not like I'm coming off the track like, oh man, I was laying it all out on the line. Like, where do I make up that time? No, I come off the track. I'm like, well, I was going slow. Okay. A second's pretty easy. Right. Wait till you guys see my Cam should send it to me here shortly. I don't know why I just thought of this. I guessed the start gate in the LCQ, like the gate drop. I've never timed a gate drop like that in my entire life. I was so far away from that gate before anyone else even moved. It was insane. And Cam got like a slow mo.
Wait, were you on the outside?
Yeah. Way outside.
So you're the guy that I like ran off into the tough blocks.
Yeah, that was me. Thanks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering who that was because I had a really good jump and I saw somebody like coming around from the outside and I just kept going straight.
That was me again. I think you did that to me in one of the left-handers where you just shot me straight off the track. Maybe not.
No, that was all on your own. That was
maybe it was. Yeah. So have you ever tried to guess the gate drop before?
No, I don't do that.
So sometimes I get the urge, like in the pit of my stomach, like I just have this gut feeling like it's gonna drop, and I've always wanted to act on that feeling and just go. And there's times when I have started to go and then I second guess and like pull on the clutch and hit the front brake and delay the start. And every time I've done that, the gate literally drops right when I hesitate. So then I'm way behind the 8-ball. This one, I was like, screw it. If I hit the gate, like, is there a fine or a penalty? There's something. I'm like, screw it. If I get penalized, whatever, I'm just going to hit the gate. And I kid you not, I started going and that gate dropped perfectly as my front tire got to it. And I
That's
was
awesome.
gone. I
And we're
missed
gonna
my
see some
shift.
footage. We're gonna see some footage of that.
Oh, he got it so nice. I can't wait. Like it people are gonna like crack up when you see it because I literally just guessed and went.
Yeah, somebody in the
Still
250,
didn't get the whole
one of the 250 guys did that, jumped the gate and ended up doing
Too
the
bad
opposite.
I was so far outside. I was like all the way the heck out there. Were you on the right side of the doghouse in the LCQ?
Yeah, I was like the 5th gate or something. I had a really good, like, I didn't have the best rut. I was pumped because I lined up next to Norin in like a good rut, and I was like, cool, I can beat Norin out of the gate. I do practice starts with him, and I think my starts are better. So I try to put myself around people that I think I can beat in the first 10 feet
Same.
because that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
And who lines up right next to me?
Ronnie
Jean
Stewart.
Cross.
Oh yeah, he's a good starter too. Annoyingly
Such a good
so.
starter,
like yeah.
dude. And I was instantly stressing. And I was like, I got to beat him. I got to beat him out of the gate. And I was sitting there. That's all I thought about. As soon as the card went sideways, I was like, I got to beat him. I got to beat him. And him and I came out like, I think we came out 1-2, but then Chiz passed both of us like right away because we were messing with each other. And and it is like if you watch LCQs, he's always 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah. There's a few guys that you always know that are going to be up there. Like Ronnie Stewart gets good starts a lot. Cross, however you say his name, does. And he's also one of those that actually both of those guys are guys that I'm afraid to ride around because they just seem to have like a blatant like disregard for anything that goes on around them, which is it's I guess good. It's a good quality to have as a racer, but it's scary for me to ride around them because they just don't care what's going on around them. But yeah, you're right. I always try to line up next to people that I know for sure. Like, okay, I'm going to have this guy the first 10 feet.
Yeah, and it's just a confidence thing. Like if you're a really good starter, you don't really think about stuff like that. But when you're notoriously not a good starter like myself, it's like those first 10 feet are super important to get out and get clear, to then have a little bit of space to be able to move and be on the gas and go where you want.
AJ, what happened round 2? You've had some decent starts in the LCQs. Round 2,
Did
you
you
just
crash second turn?
Round 2, I had a good start. I got fumbled around in the first turn, so then I came out like 4th, and then in the second turn, there was just a domino. Like people weren't crashing, but it was like one guy rode the high line, then the next guy rode the one down, and then Scott Champion rode the third one down, and then I was in the rut that like wasn't even existing because it was so low. And then Politelli was behind me, so he had nowhere to go and just kind of like hit all of us into each other. And when Politelli hit me, it snapped my clutch lever right off, like the whole thing off. So I couldn't even get the bike into gear. But which is hilarious because just had a protein shake, so this thing is really it's really affecting
You
me.
always do that.
I only if I'm doing a podcast, I make sure I have a protein shake 1 hour ahead of time, so it's right
perfect.
in
Yeah, the indigestion really comes out good on the recording.
So Team SGB is documenting all of the damages from each racer, and at the end of the season, whoever has the most damage, it has to wash all 4 bikes in a Speedo at the last round. So
that's what the whiteboard is?
I don't think.
I was wondering what that was.
I don't think you should be considering who your teammate is.
Right.
Exactly.
No, I'm not concerned about. I'll never knock on wood unless my bike falls off a cliff. There's no way I'm gonna lose to the Speedo, but I wanted to try to go the whole season with $0 worth of damage. And so when that happened, I was like, dang it, freaking clutch lever. We got some damage up on the board. But then Jeremy Smith's mechanic crashed. Actually, Rodbell and A-Ray are duking it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we got for total so far?
They're creeping up on
Dude,
1,000.
A-Ray's like already at almost $1,000.
Yep. they're both creeping up on 1,000. I think I have it's like $114 because I think my bars were a little bent, so he calculated the bars into it as well. But what's funny is Jeremy Smith's mechanic was riding the bike back after he washed it, and right as he got to the semi, he thought he put it in neutral. So then he started to fumble around with his pit board, and he went to do like that little blip that people do just kind of like before you shut the bike off. and it was in gear.
Oh boy.
So it freaking wheelies him. He's got one hand on, so he starts to fly off the back, and now he's like getting stuck wide open. And I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna just fly wide open into somebody's truck. And then he's sort of able to like regain composure, but not really. And then just grabs a handful of front brake, washes the front, and then just goes cartwheeling over the bars. And no one saw it but me. I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even know what to do. So
we all saw it in our pit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we like heard the rev, and then we all looked, and we just hear, and it sounded like a motorcycle just skidding across the blacktop.
Yep. So that damage, which I forget what it was. Surprisingly, like, he got lucky. It wasn't too bad, but that damage went on Jeremy Smith's total too. So Jeremy got screwed a little bit.
I told Jason that's BS. It should be deducted. Like, he should, get some dollars back.
Yeah,
because it was the mechanic's fault.
Poor guy. He was hurt too. Like, you could tell he was hurt. I felt bad, but at the same time, like, just make sure you put that freaking thing in neutral. And even if you think you have it in neutral, like, double check, especially with the 450. He's lucky he didn't fly into a truck.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Imagine crashing into
Jason goes, imagine that price total if he just totaled like an F-150 and we got $45,000 on the parts list. Would have never been able to recover.
So how is the team energy? I guess this is a question for both of you guys. You both have some pretty positive atmospheres in your pits. How AJ, we'll start with you. How is the SGB vibe this season, and how has it impacted you?
Oh, it's awesome. I don't think there's another team. I think Cade's team does seem pretty relaxed too, but it's like the perfect team atmosphere, especially for somebody in my shoes, that they understand my expectations and they understand my situation and what my goals are. And they're super supportive of that. And all the riders are really laid back. We're like really competitive with each other, but in a fun way. I don't know. And I think one year the bugs worked out because Jason at the first year, there were certain things that like weren't going off super smooth, which is to be expected with the first year team. But year two, we got to figure it out. And I think the four of us, Rod Bell, Smith, A-Ray, myself, we work together really well. We all get along. It's really like the perfect team setup. How about you, Cade? You want to switch to SGB?
Good. No, I don't. I don't think I could be under the same tent as Alex. I really don't. No, I mean, it's been good for us. I think personally, I think my own attitude is a lot better this year towards a lot of things, not just my riding, but just how things are ran and what to expect. And I think it's kind of rolled over into my mechanic and my relationship with everybody. And it's been a lot of fun this year. We have all been working together really well. And, Julian stepped up a lot, not just from a team manager standpoint, but as like the team owner, he put a lot into it. He got us a new rig. He's got a lot of good sponsors on board. And it's been fun. Last year, I don't feel like I was having a ton of fun at the races because I wasn't doing very well. Going back to like what we were talking about, finding those small wins, I really wasn't having fun. And this year I'm having a lot of fun. I'm spending more time. Like, I'll go to the track the day we're not racing and I'll just help the mechanics. Like, I'll clean the semi and help organize stuff or help Fred with my bike work. And, a lot of dudes won't do that stuff. And I think that goes a long ways with our relationship, mechanic, rider wise. It just helps us work together better. And, everyone sees that hard work and then it translates. And, I think that's going to pay off in the long run because we have to spend a lot of time together. So I think AJ can attest, like, sometimes you just get on each other's nerves. And, if you can find ways to have fun and be a little bit less serious, it helps a lot.
Do you guys notice any teams out there who are not doing well, like vibe wise? Here's your opportunity to throw some guys under the bus.
Rockstar Husky.
Yeah. Well, what with the pits being the way they are, there's
AJ, are you avoiding that question, or are you answering it?
No. There's no one that really sticks out as. I mean, I'm sure those factory teams are probably all pretty stressful to be a part of, to be honest with you. But as far as like the COVID pit situation, we're kind of, I didn't really see anybody's pit area other than Cade because Cade was right across from us.
Mm.
But other than that,
I mean, you don't like. I don't even know who was pitted where. I don't know what anybody's setup looks like. I didn't even bother to walk through the pits. We
Same.
were kind of right by the entrance, and it was actually super convenient. We were like really close to the entrance and stuff, but yeah, it's weird. We're not allowed in other people's semis. We're not allowed to be other places. Even my trainer, he came. He works with Osborne too, and he was on Osborne's list. And he's like, "Look, I know you're the owner of Club MX, and you have a bunch of dudes here, but you're on Zach's list. You're in Zach's pit. That's it." He couldn't come see me. He couldn't. We couldn't talk.
Really?
We texted all day, and that was it.
Wow.
Now, how does it work if one person, let's say, like John Kuzo, gets COVID? Does that take out half of the field?
No.
Or
so I guess Brandon had a conversation with that about Mewey with Mewey, because that was a rumor that if like say AJ got COVID, his whole team is out.
Is that not true?
Because obviously that's not true. So it's just that rider. Everyone else technically tested negative, so there's no reason to kick them out.
That's a relief.
Because I did hear a thing that is Jordan Trexel Kenny's mechanic?
Yeah, I think so.
He is? Okay. I don't think he was there for round 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was something that somebody told me while we were looking at the track, that person had possibly tested positive and was no longer.
If that's true, that's cutting it close for Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's true. I don't pay close enough attention to Kenny or his mechanic situation. That's something I heard, because that's terrifying for someone like him.
Yeah. I mean, well, you got to imagine that it's only a matter of time. Bryce, are you putting your finger up? Like we got to stop?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'll edit this out. My wife is locked out of my house. I gotta go.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
After a brief intermission, we're back.
We're back. Some tactical difficulties. No. So you have limited time left, AJ. So we'll get right to what everybody wants to talk about, and that's the incident that happened in the main event of the 450 class with Roxon in the lead, Webb on his tail, and they run into Dean Wilson. And before we go into like what your guys' thoughts on that, I have to give a shout out to both of those guys, because, and I was messing with you, AJ, right after it happened. I'm like, Dean Wilson, what the fuck? He became the most hated person in the motorsports world in about a second. Social media went insane. I mean, it was really toxic. But I have to give a shout out to the way Kenny handled it, although he was extremely mad, and how Dean Wilson responded to it and apologized and everything. So I think if I were Ken Roxon, I would have punched the hole in the wall that he said he wanted to. So him restraining himself and like showing some class like that was very mature, and he handled it well. Sure, he was really pissed. And then Dean's response to it all, got to give him props for owning it. But what do you guys think?
What do you think, Bryce, before we go? Because I want to hear all three of our.
So watching it, I cannot possibly comprehend how Dean Wilson did not move out of the way, with kind of knowing where. I mean, there was some ambiguity about blue flags. If you go back and watch the flagger right before it happened, did not wave a blue flag, but blue flags were waving for almost an entire lap before that turn. Watching it, I was like, Dean Wilson should be punished for this. That was egregious. I can't imagine how he didn't hear him, didn't sense him, didn't know to move with the flags. I thought it was pretty damn egregious. And not only, I mean, Ken Roxon, if you watch it back, he actually hit Dean in the wall. Did you notice that? He actually hit his rear tire. and he still managed to kind of try to go around him, and Dean cut into the inside and block the inside from the turn for Kenny to come on the inside. Like, how many opportunities do you want to give the guy to move over? You should have moved over.
I'll go.
Cade, you go.
AJ, did you watch the main in the stadium?
Yeah.
Like, did you watch it at the truck or did you watch it in the stadium?
In the stadium.
Oh, okay. So I watched it in the stadium, and so he started the first blue flag that he got for Kenny and Coop was going through the rhythm section where they go 3-3-3. There was a blue flag there, the straightaway, and the finish line is, I think, the only three places where there were blue flags out. Because I was paying attention to it in the 250 main because the lappers were kind of causing issues for Craig, and I think that's why. And then Dean got one in the rhythm section, and there's two different types of blue flagging. There's like the gentle, like, hey, they're coming, like, find a way, like, look back, see where they're at. And there's the like hardcore, like, about to break the flag in half, like, get the F out of the way, like you're creating a problem blue flag.
Yep.
And he got an aggressive blue flag in the rhythm section, and Kenny was right behind him. If you see, Kenny tries to pass him before the finish line, and Dino, like, isn't being aware of it, and could have easily jumped the finish, went to the outside around the hip and let him by going into the whoops. Doesn't. I wasn't paying close enough attention to see if he got a blue flag going down the straightaway or not, but again, could have easily went out to the berm, let him by right there, not lost any time, or even after Kenny jumped into the back of him, let him by right there and gone wide. Kenny could have still gone inside, wouldn't have caused that much of an issue. So, I mean, it sucks because, like, being a guy who's gotten lapped before and knows, like, I know it's hard, but you're getting lapped. It is your job to pay attention and get out of the way and ride a line that isn't going to affect, too much of their lap. Like, you're going to hold them up to a certain extent, no matter what, because they're going to be hesitant to pass you because, you're getting, in some way, you're going to affect their race. But it's not that hard to just know which line, like, the outside before the wall is
perfect solution.
Easy, perfect solution. Like, dude, Kenny was wide open with the clutch pulled in going into the wall turn. Like, dang well that Dean should have been able to hear that he was back there.
I heard people were hearing Ken Roczen scream in the stadium. I don't know if you guys heard it.
Yeah, I mean, I yell at people all the time. Like, I wear earplugs and I can still hear people yell at me, and I can hear bikes perfectly clear. Like, I don't understand. I was so mad. I was like, I like Dean a lot. Like, I think Dean is possibly, like, one of the best personalities in our pits. And I'm not trying to shit on him or anything, because I know it's hard to get lapped. It's really hard. It's really hard to get lapped and continue racing at a fast pace. But at the same time, man, you gotta know better. Like, that's a championship swinging 3 points right there when they're this close. So it sucks for him.
Yeah, I don't even really have much to add to either of those things. I kind of agree. Like, from a racer's perspective, I think he maybe was just doing what I count like the Ferrandis stupidity pass on Craig last year. A lot of like what James Stewart would do, where these guys are just like moving forward and thinking only about going forward, and they don't know what's going on around them, and they don't care about what's going on around them. So that's really the only thing I could maybe account for it. But even with that, you would have to have known that something was happening behind you. Maybe he didn't know that there was a battle for the lead. Maybe he thought that he was going fast enough to where he could just have rode out the last 2 laps like he did and not slow him up enough to cause much of an issue. but that's it. I mean, no one knows but Dean. Dean's the only one that was on the bike. He's the only one that truly will ever know what he was thinking in that situation. But yeah, after the whoops, I mean, he should have let him go a long time before that. But after the whoops, going into the tight left-hander past the mechanics area, all he had to do was go outside to the berm at basically race pace, and he would have lost 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second, and that would have allowed the guys to go by. That would have at least allowed Roxon to go by, and then he would have realized that Webb would have appeared next to him, and then he probably would have let Webb by.
The only other thing I wanted to add was, in his apology, he's like, I was focused on the guys ahead of me. And if you look at the results, before he got docked, he got 11th and he was behind JB. And the only dude in the same lane as him was Bogle, who was in 20th. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to shit on Dean because I like Dean a lot. But
no, I just try to always understand what they were thinking. And this is one of those situations where, you know, like usually I can watch a situation and be like, okay, guaranteed this is what happened. This is what both that guys were trying to do. This is how it ended up. With this, it's like, you know, I don't really know.
It would be a lot different too if it were one turn for one section. If he missed one blue flag, if it was like, you know, out of nowhere, maybe he fell, they caught him really quick, they rammed him into a turn and he didn't move. But I mean, it was a full lap that he hung him up. At least.
Yeah. My only explanation is I think he just had an attitude, and I think he just wanted to stay where he was and not move and thought he was going fast enough. I think it's as simple as that.
And I mean, I don't think Webb was going to catch Roxon if it weren't for that.
No, he was catching him, but not enough to be able to do anything with it. No, Dean Wilson made Roxon lose the race. Because what happened, so if I want to break this down a little further, the left-hander, when they went over the wall, that's the left-hander before the wall definitely screwed Roxon. When they came over the wall, Dino messed up. Roxon fumbled because Dino messed up. That screwed Roxon even more. And then Dino went roll inside.
Right.
Going roll inside was the worst thing that he could have done there, because that forced Roxon to go double and then go way wide. Because Dino didn't even go in the furthest inside rut. He went in the middle rut, which then put Roxon into no man's land on the outside. Did Roxon hit that corner perfect? No, but like he was just in the worst spot, because Webb at that point was just far enough behind to where he saw that play out and could make the maneuver and knew exactly what to do. Roxon was just like, what the it was just the worst timing for that poor guy.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, we'll see, you know, where we're at the end of the season, but you know, Roxon's had a couple of weeks of bad luck. Gets docked 4 points for the jumping the medical flag, and then these 3 points that he clearly would have gotten. So that's 7 points.
I forgot about the jumping on the red cross flag thing.
What is your take on that
AJ,
one, Cade?
What would you?
Sorry, ask AJ a question.
I mean, I
never saw that, so I can't.
AJ, do you think Husky to KTM? Is there any realm in your mind that there is any intentions?
Oh no,
the conspiracy, the old KTM
conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
No, why would you think that there maybe was?
A lot of people made that connection.
I mean, there's a connection, you know. I mean, there may be. I don't know, man. I mean, they all have the same boss, you know.
Yeah, but dude, the way that played out was like so lucky
for Webb.
Yeah, but
I wonder, did Wilson know that Webb was behind him though? I wonder.
Yeah, but all Dino would have to do is create congestion. That could have been his only goal.
But how would he have even known that? I mean, like that would have taken. There's so many moving parts that would have had to go into that. Like,
there's people looking at the pit boards and saying,
"Yeah, I mean, watch the pit board and it says wide bike, you know, or whatever, you know. Don't let anyone by." That's all it's got to, you know. All you need is a hint, you know. I'm not trying to say that happened. It was more of a question.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. I think that would have to be pretty far-fetched, but I guess not impossible.
Yeah. So red cross flag, I was obviously watching that main event too, and I just happened to see the red cross flag out couple of people roll, and then Kenny jump. And I mean, I know that section was difficult because of the sand. And I mean, I don't remember what he said was the reasoning he couldn't see the red cross flag, but I saw it being waved from the stands and then saw him jump. And
he said it was just, it was like the position of whoever was like to the front and to the left. And it was like, he said it was just like perfect timing where it was in his like view where he didn't see it. He showed the picture of like the screen grab of some footage to like show like, here's where he was lined up. Here's where the flag was. Here's this guy in between us. And he just missed it.
And I believe him on that too, but I don't know what the ruling is. Like, I don't know if it matters what intent was.
Well, it does say it had to be a blatant disregard for the flag. And that was his argument. It's like, this wasn't blatant. It wasn't.
Then yeah. Then if that's the case, if it says blatant disregard, then no, because Kenny would be one of the people that I would completely trust that he would never intentionally do that. Like, I would never, there's been times I've jumped on a red cross, but it was by accident. Like, I would never intentionally, in fact, I would only go the opposite direction, which would be to roll too many obstacles, just to be extra fair about it and extra cautious. I would screw myself over trying to cheat. And I think he'd be this, I see him as being that same type of person. So yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I agree. The red cross flag's it's just serious. Like, there's an issue. And I mean, I would hate to jump something on accident and hit somebody that didn't, didn't deserve it.
Yeah. And not only that, but if you were doing it intentionally to gain an advantage, you're straight up just cheating.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we all know. You know what that flag means. Everyone does. So, I mean, I don't think anyone would, intentionally do that. Like Marv, the year he did it in Seattle, he had a huge lead and he did it and, lost the points or whatever, but still got the win. Everyone knows that it's going to screw you because somebody's going to see it.
Yep. All right, boys. Well, I have to go. But
thank you for your time, Your Excellency.
Yes. But I'm going to take my headset to Indy because I'm staying in Indy from Friday to Wednesday. And I actually won't have anything going on Sunday and Monday. So
good. So I'll rearrange my entire schedule around you. Perfect.
Okay, please do. Please.
Kat, I can't believe you're leaving. We're going to go back to my dad's house and we're going to go to Ray's.
Oh,
you know what Ray's, the bike park is?
Yeah.
We're probably going to go Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm going home just to be home for like barely a day and a half, and then I fly back. So it's almost not even worth it.
Allie's a lucky lady.
Yeah,
she sure is.
I'm so kind. It's just bad timing. Like, it's like, all right, we bought the house, we closed on it, and see ya. I'm leaving for 10 days.
That's what happened for me with Salt Lake City last year. We bought the house, and then I think the day we signed the papers, the schedule came out, and I had like 2 weeks to get ready to go racing.
Yeah, I feel bad. And Allie's been like, I came back home and there was nothing left in here. She's just been taking trips with my truck to and from, trying to get everything dropped off.
Yeah,
she's a good girl.
That'll happen. So,
all right,
thanks,
Cade,
boys.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Wish you luck this weekend and the rest of the season. Keep stacking those wins over AJ up, please. We all like to see that.
It's another one of the goals. Don't let AJ beat me in time qualifying.
I'm beating you in time qualifying this week. That is my one and only goal.
Is there press for Indy? Is there a press day, or are you guys riding it?
No.
Okay.
There's probably a press day.
AJ won't beat me in Indy. The track's too gnarly.
I don't know. The ruts sometimes you're good in ruts.
That's my bread butter.
You're good in the ruts. I'm good in the ruts too, though. So we'll see.
This is the battle that I'll be watching all day on Saturdays is between you two. I don't really care what else happens, to be honest.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Cade. Good luck, man. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Toodaloo.
Adios.